And welcome to another exciting adventure on Writing Through the Unknown. I'm your host, Michael, and I have a couple of announcements before I get over to our amazing guest. And the first announcement is thank you all for tuning in. And I know we had another guest scheduled, and I am so grateful that our guest tonight was free and available. So you all are in for a huge treat. I was hoping to get her on this show, and so I'm grateful that it's happening. And second announcement is for you, Laura. You threw me off because it's a Starseed. I was like, wait, how am I supposed to introduce you? But I just want to say my heart and my show's heart to you. Thank you for your service and the sacrifice that you did in serving the country and yourself.
You're welcome, Michael. That was from 2000 to 2006. It seems like another lifetime. You're welcome.
Well, I am excited, and we have been talking a lot offline, so you guys are in for a huge treat. And Jim is thanking you for your service as well, Laura. And
thank you, Jim.
I am going to turn it over to our awesome and amazing guest. She has an extraordinary voice and gift that I can't wait for you all to experience. And so, without further ado, I give you the one, the only, multi-talented, multifaceted Laura Ferguson, aka Starseed Lø Lø.
Wow, Michael, what an introduction. Let's see if I can live up to that.
Just be yourself.
Yeah, that's always best, right? Best policy. So, Laura Ferguson is my real name, and that's also my author name. I've authored a few children's books in English and Spanish, 2023, 2024. More recently got into a novelette, sci-fi, fantasy, parallel life, really cool, series started, and I'm screenwriting that right now. Starseed Lø Lø comes from my music artist name, which I started songwriting. Songwriting part came easy to me as being an author and a retired investigator from the Department of Justice. The part that wasn't as easy and still isn't as streamlined, I guess, is the actual, singing. And because I don't have musical training, and I started that early 2024, so I've actually teamed up with a couple producers on an app called BandLab, which is a social media app for basically for music artists and the likes. And I found a wonderful producer. His name is Charles J. Cliff in Canada, a wonderful guitarist. He's actually an attorney named Carlos in Puerto Rico, which is cool because my Spanish is like, okay, my dad's from Mexico, my mom's American, and I can get by. I'm a dual citizen now. But, it's nice to have Carlos there as a native speaker because I'm first generation on my dad's side, and to, have him teaching me because he composes music and sings himself in 3 languages, including Portuguese, Spanish, English. And then I'm working with a couple other producers, a female producer named Daphne in Boston right now. And the gist of my songs are Starseed, uplifting, spiritual awakening. My most recent song is Dark Night of the Soul. Michael just heard it, I believe, yesterday or today. I don't know if you have any comments about that, Michael, but it is in reference to Dr. Carl Jung's Nigredo stage, which is Black and Latin for the dark night of the soul, depression, and how these traumas or these depressions and bring us to awareness of our spiritual awakening, which for me happened in early 2021-ish. So I don't know if where you want to go from there, Michael, but there you go.
Well, I will say I am surprised that you say your voice is not trained because I have seen you sing on your videos, and I'm like, there are times that I sit there and like, you should have been the original singer because it is so much more emotional and power behind it than I think the original singers that we would recognize. Like, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you did a Little Mermaid one, and I was
Yeah.
like, man, Disney should have hired you to be the singer because I was like, I literally could see myself floating through the water, like in the movie from your singing. And it's like, I remember playing the song, and it was like, yeah, I just like the lyrics to the Disney version, but yours, it's like, yeah, I went on that adventure. So, and you mentioned the Dark Night of the Soul music. That song really hit me. I mean, because I've gone through quite a few of them in my life. I think we all have, but it was like, it resonated, and it was like, yeah, somebody finally put into words what it's like. It's like, you get it. And it comes through, and it's like, it's beautiful. And it's not triggering in any way. So don't think, oh, if I listen to this, I'm going to go into that because some music will do that. I don't think yours does that. I think yours just kind of allows someone to know you're not going through this alone because you went through it, and your song relates, I think, to everybody can relate to it and feel less alone going through it, which I know is strange because Dark Night of the Souls you do on your own and you find the healing within, but there is comfort, I think, that comes from the song. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, and that's what I want to do. I don't want to trigger people. Like, I don't want to have to do a post to say trigger warning. There's going to be a sexual assault, or something that um, is really really raw. Because I feel that we hear a lot of this on the news, which I avoid the mainstream news. And when I did listen to things, I would binge listen to BitChute and Rumble, people such as yourself on Rumble, and I like it because it's not censored, and uh, so I really don't listen to the news, and it's a lot better for my mental health. And I like to talk about these things in the songs so people know that they're not alone when they're having a spiritual awakening, or someone's telling them they're crazy, or they have a condition or a diagnosis that they might or might not have. I'm not a medical doctor, okay? But just because somebody tells you you are something or you have something doesn't mean you have it, right? So we don't have to accept everything that we're force fed. And I'm a retired investigator, so I really love to check facts. I was an auditor and investigator for 20 years, and I don't think I'll ever get rid of that. What is it? The left brain and like the accounting mind and the logical and reasoning. And I've opened up my right brain, obviously with the performing arts. And thank you for your compliments too, because I'm pretty sure that a lot of the singing comes from parallel lives, because I have not been classically trained, and I am actually being coached, by a couple musicians, like the guitarists and composers that have been doing this for decades, and people in professional bands, things like that. And these people seem to just show up out of the woodwork, at the right time and the right place, and the divine timing of things. And it's like the order of operations and synchronicity and the flow. Like, you're with the flow. The more synchronicities you see, like whether it's 11:11 on the clock, or like for 6 months straight, I would always wake up at 10:25 p.m. if I went to bed earlier than that, obviously. And it just tells you that you're on the right track and that you're doing what you're supposed to do. And I literally binge listen to Bashar. I think that Daryl Umpus channelings with Bashar in practicing the formula, which is just a basic, basically just follow your passion in that moment. It can be something small, like I'm going to eat a cookie, or I'm going to sit down, or it could be something big, like I'm going to Disneyland right now, but it doesn't have to be something big. As long as you follow the rabbit down the hole of your passion in that moment, you will be led in perfect synchronicities in the universe. And so you were telling me before this show that you had the energy that surrounds us. Honestly, I thought it was a paranormal and it was that show, and now I'm finding out that you have this really cool other show called Riding Through the Unknown on Wednesday nights. And I've been interested in this UFO thing. I've watched, and as an investigator, and I learned about the Majestic 12. I got into Ancient Aliens like 25 seasons ago, whenever it started. I was telling people about Ancient Aliens. Like I told my mom, you gotta watch this. Oh my God, you don't know Ancient Aliens? The guy with the crazy hair, the Superlos guy. And that stuff really started early 2021 for me, as it was in my early 40s. And it just kept on taking off. Like I would go on Facebook and for fun, do free tarot readings to practice, to see, is there something to this? Like, am I just BSing people? Like, am I just going to pull out an oracle card or, the 10 of Swords and tell them, I feel like you're an artist and you're a really good artist and you need to keep on doing it. Or you're good at teaching. Is there anything that you can do with teaching, or something with your career or your love? And like 95% of the time I was accurate. And, they were just free ones. Like you just go in the Facebook groups and, I was just practicing, and it was really fun. And that's kind of where I started. And then it spun off into, eventually I interviewed authors until I absorbed so much. I came up with a book idea for children's books. My son was 5, and, a Conscious Kids series, because I didn't see a lot of Conscious Kid books at that time in 2023, even, a few years ago. And there weren't that many meditation books. And, when he was 5, he really wasn't aware of all that. And now that he's almost 8, he's like, Mom, I'm going to meditate. And I sat here for 60 seconds and, I timed myself. And then I did a sacred geometry book after that, which really Robert Edward Grant, who I interviewed, which I was kind of like shaking my boots because he had just interviewed Danica Patrick. And then, then here I am, little old forensic accountant me, interviewing Robert Edward Grant, who, is on Gaia TV. And I was following him right before he came out with that Codex show on Gaia TV. I used to binge, watch all Gaia TV. Not anymore. I think I've already seen everything on there 10 times. But anyway, he inspired my sacred geometry book because he's a polymath, and I was a forensic accountant. And so I really love sacred geometry. And I couldn't find a sacred geometry book that existed for kids. Like it just didn't exist. So my second book actually won first place in the Book Fest Awards. And I didn't think that was going to happen. My first book won second place, but
congratulations.
Thank you. I'm going to enter again this winter for the novelette, The Entanglement, which the first book is about parallel lives on Mars and on Gaia here on Earth in Atlantis, roughly 11,500 years ago. And we all have parallel lives, lives that we recall either in meditation and dreams, even when we're lucid or awake. Things that we are experts at naturally, like me with my singing, or you with your interviewing, or you with writing, because I know you write books as well. Generally when we're naturally inclined to do these things, that means that we've done it before several times. So, it's just amazing to me because with parallel lives, like I could go infinitely in books from, till I'm 90 something years old, and I'm 40 something right now. So I am like letting it go with the flow. So if something comes out, it's like channeling writing. I'm like, no, I don't want that character to die that way. And then like my higher self is saying, yes, that's how it happened. Write it down. I'm like, okay, damn it. And then, so I'm just like writing it down. And then the way how I know that it was accurate, which all perceptions are valid, all experiences are valid, because we all have our own unique experience from our own perception point and our own consciousness container, as I call it in my book, which is our body. And so our consciousness container is unique, our experiences are unique, and which means they're all valid because we're all part of the collective entangled, just like quantum entanglement. And we also have the individual point, a perspective point. And so I talk about that, a conversation with your higher self in my last chapter of my book on the 26th chapter. And it's a pretty quick read. It's an hour and a half long audiobook. The ebook's going to come out probably in the new year. Right now, the audiobooks like Spotify, Google Play, something else. All the links will be down here. But my next book is going to be about the Orion Wars. I don't know what the higher self wants to do with the third book yet, but it was important for me to make the first one, to pitch it for a movie, because there are space wars in it. It shows it talks about the Atlantis destruction in a very fun, adventurous way with reptilians. Yes, I said reptilians. I call them reptoids in my book. Kind of make up my own jargon there. Blue avian birds, humanoids. I have the ant humanoids on Mars. I have mantis insectoids. Of course, the insectoids are underground and have their own city. And on Gaia, a lot of that stuff is going on as well when Atlantis was around. And I'm not necessarily saying that my perspective is perfect or it's, even accurate. But for me, that's what I got in QHHT sessions when I was under hypnosis. One of those are actually public on YouTube, Alba Weinman. And that the ET life from Mars is in that one. That's a blue Lyrian cat humanoid. And I have an illustrator, making these so people can see, what does a mantis being look like? What does an insectoid look like? It's not really a known ET, a lot of them are not common. And shockingly, on Gaia TV, like Greg Braden will say, oh, the Orion Wars is Star Wars. I'm like, no, it's not. None of it relates to Earth. None of it relates to Gaia. None of it even shows, reptilians, grays, or, like the mainstream ones that we're kind of either in contact with or that we have parallel lives as and that we know of. So for me to say that Star Trek, which is really cool, but, they are not the Orion Wars. So that's why I want to screenwrite my first book and then get the Atlantis destruction out of the way and how it ties to Mars, Tiamat, which is Planet X in my book. And, I don't really talk about the moon, but the moon was brought in after that because, all three were affected, the Tiamat planet, the water planet, and then Mars and then Gaia. And so I looked up, there's a couple like low budget movies about Atlantis. There's like one British series in the early 2000s, but there are really no movies that explain Atlantis, that explain the destruction, the Great Deluge, none of that. And so I thought it was important to at least start the discussion about it.
I agree. And I will say, synchronicity, and I see parallels between Star Wars and the Orion Wars, I'll admit. I'm not saying that, in my opinion, they're both the same, but there are parallels. And one that was synchronistic to me was when I was watching, I think it was episode 9, where Rey goes in the desert and buries the two lightsabers and then stands up and kind of is like, that's the end. Well, what's synchronistic about it is sometime in the past, I had told my parents, I said, yeah, I was a knight. And when we realized the fight was over, we buried our weapons, like lightsabers. So we buried them in the ground. And, you sit there and you're like, yeah, this is something being made up. I could easily be just making this up. But then when I saw it on the screen, I literally had tears like starting down my face. And I was like, oh my God, remember when I told you we did that? And it was like, to me, it kind of felt validating to see it on screen. that, yeah, this really did happen, because how could they pick that one scene to match my memory of 9 movies, being like, yes, I finally have one memory I can attach to this.
Yeah. And you had the realization or the recall of the memory prior to seeing that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And
A
so,
similar thing happened to me. But anyways, go ahead.
yeah, but I think what's important though is, we don't always write down everything, because some things just sound so far fetched, and then later we're like, oh man, I wish I had written that down, because no one's gonna believe I said this or did this before this came out. And it's like, but it's true. And that's, the sad reality is, because there's so many people out there that are doing the quote disinformation or false news, that when we go to share our experiences, we get viewed under heavier scrutiny now than in the past, because it's not the subject matter, it's the, are you really telling, how much proof do you have to your story now, versus before. It's like people would be like, oh, that's really cool to, or really that happened to you, tell me more. Now it's, where's your proof? How much proof do you have? Who's validated this for you? Where did you get that? And it's like, it's not fair in a way, that we are under such scrutiny now, trying to share our honest and authentic experiences. And that's a word, when talking about your music, why I think your voice resonates the way it does is because it's authentic. You don't have an agenda to the song like the artists do that are singing it. They're like, they want the hit, they want it to go number one. You're just singing it to sing it. And so that's why I think it resonates better.
So you're saying I'm keeping it real.
Yeah, I think you do. And you're singing from the heart, where other people are singing from other people's hearts, because they're using songs that somebody else wrote.
That's true. And now when I listen to an artist, even if I've heard him 500 times prior, I go down and I look at the credits and I see who wrote their lyrics. And if it's like them and 2 other people, I don't care. But I place a lot of value in having them write their own lyrics, even if they're one of 3 people, because that is coming from their heart. That's coming from their higher self, and it is keeping it real. And I told myself, self, you come out with children's book, yeah, your son is in it, this and that. What if you make $0 on it? Are you still going to do it? And I said yes. I said okay, so I'll do it. And then that rolled into another one, and then another one, and then a Spanish version, and then the sacred geometry one, and then publishing for a couple other people. One of them is a dentist in New York, and helping other people on kind of mentoring. I think I like to mentor people and kind of train people. I got a lot of that leadership stuff from this training and stuff, and helping others from the military, and so that's stayed with me. And I have a Master's of Art Organizational Leadership, but a lot of that stemmed from the military. And so, anyway, I'm trying to remember what my point was, but when we come to these realizations that, like I've seen Unacknowledged with Dr. Stephen Greer, and then you do hear clout from certain people that he's quote unquote not telling the truth, and then you hear from other people that he is. And so at the end of the day, you have to weigh your options and just decide. Yes, you can go down a rabbit hole, like my investigator self will go, finding out, binge listening to something for 500 hours and be obsessed with finding information and studies and, real logical documents that came from FOIA Freedom of Information Act requests from government documents and stuff like that. But it's really garbage in and garbage out. So, how can you really verify a source document depending on where the source is, and if that person has passed away and it's decades now, such as like the moon landing, like it's something that happened in the late 60s and all these Apollo missions and these people that are literally on their deathbed making confessions about moon landings and, misinformation or true information. And, Roswell is still, there's been a lot of hearings about the UFO disclosure stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of that clout with a lot of the people that are not being honest have made the way a little bit more challenging for us. And so when we do come out and we say, we're involved with the hybrid program and can I prove that? No, not necessarily. It's not in the astral. I'm a hybrid mother or something. If we say something like that, it's outlandish because unfortunately there are those plants and distractions that are out there that are either being funded, or backed. And so, yes, I believe that there are some factions that are, I guess, throwing clout out there to confuse and distract the masses, if that makes sense.
It does. And one thing I want to ask about and make sure bring awareness to is the Starseed Nation Official LLC. Can you share what your mission and and what that's all about?
Yes, Starseed Nation Official LLC. It actually started out as a couple different LLCs when I lived in California before moving to Florida. It was Starseed Metaphysical Shop LLC, which was primarily for publishing and for books. That's when like children's books started, and then I actually published a couple other authors under that LLC. Prior to that, I was Aztec Indigo Moon, so I'm about a third Aztec, and that's when I was just doing the readings on Facebook, and wasn't making a lot of money because most of it was free, and just for training and practicing. And now, it's really actually a blend of the music side of it, the conscious music, and the books, which are being screenwritten for movies, for pitching to a movie, because the book has a lot of action in it. It's literally a space war between Mars, planet Tiamat, and Gaia. And there's blue aliens falling out of the sky. There's lasers going on. A lot of the technology is what you have seen in like Star Wars and Star Trek. And so there are going to be a lot of parallels because a lot of us, and you're a space warrior, I'm a space warrior. You can just kind of tell by the person's energy if they have any kind of connection to Orion or the Orion Wars, which happened in actual reality of time. There's no time with the present, but in our experience of time, millions of years ago, a planet prior to going to Mars, it said that these incarnations in consciousness containers in a higher fourth dimension reality, or at planet Maldek, and that they ended up incarnating and moving to Mars. And then this happened in my book, in the Atlantean, destruction / Mars. And then, they have actually, a lot of them have re-experienced themselves here in Earth. And so if we have an affinity toward any of the information, you were there, I was there, and so you having that, not episode, but that incident realization of like literally crying when you saw the burying scene. I had something similar happen when I read a hypnosis book. I think her name is Sarah Breast Cosmic, something like that. And she's on Gaia on a few shows. And I read her hypnotist journey to Atlantis, or something like that. This is like 5 years ago. This is before I even got the idea about this one and got my own hypnosis session, QHHT session. which is a Dolores Cannon method, and there's a few variations on it. But I actually contacted her and said, "Oh, hi, I saw you on Gaia, and I read your book." She has like 5 books or something now, but then I think she had 2. And I'm like, in the hypnotist journey at the end, like literally a week or 2 before, it was a Lionsgate portal in like 2021. I didn't know what that was. And when I was meditating, I kept seeing lions, like 2 of them. Like it was literally a gate with 2 lions. And then I found out about, well, the Lionsgate, it's just like a spiritual thing. It's a fun thing. I didn't know what it meant. And I had a meditation. It was by myself. And I had a realization in the meditation, clairvoyantly, or, like I was there, that there were 2 sphinxes, specifically 2, and a lot of things are buried under the sand in Giza, in this version of Earth now. And I was a cat, Lyrian ET. And so this was like 4 or 5 years ago. And, now this is actually in a book, which I didn't even have the idea for yet, when my hair stuff wasn't ready for it yet. And then I read it in her book and Sarah's book, like literally 2 weeks after this Lionsgate portal and this meditation I did. Like it was probably just like a live one on YouTube or whatever, random one that was played it back on Gaia TV. And I said, oh my gosh, I knew that the Sphinx was under the desert. And actually, I went and got a session with my friend who does Akashic Records. His name is Alexis in Sacramento, California, when I still lived there. And he actually was in that session with me when we saw the Sphinx underground. And he could verify it for me. She's like, oh yeah, I knew Alexis because, like he was in the hypnosis community too. And she was like shocked. And so I thought that was pretty cool because I had a witness to that. Now I literally like showed him like the page. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's another Sphinx under the ground, because there's a masculine Sphinx and then there's a feminine one. And it's said that underneath the ground of Giza, there's a lot of things, like they say, Cosmic Agency says there's a whole, like alien thing underground, and like a bunker with all this technology, which I believe is very possible because my investigator side says, where's all the ground penetrating radar of Gaia Plateau and the Muon technology? I think that's spelled MUON, which is actually, better than ground penetrating radar. It's like high tech now, because it's basically like X-ray vision times 10 now. And, they just haven't shared this with us. And it's like, how many square miles? It's huge. And there's several monuments there. And so it just blew my mind that Alexis and I, we had that session, and he heard me talk about the Sphinx under the ground, and then I read it like 2 weeks later, and it's like, I have a witness here with it. Like I talked about my near-death experience. I had a witness for that too. And a Kodiak bear ran out in front of the car and then kind of disappeared and then reappeared safely and left. So, it blew my mind, honestly. I was shocked, and I'm like, I guess this stuff is real. Like, I didn't know what to call it. Now I just call it higher self.
You actually just blew my mind a little bit, because when you were talking about the Lionsgate and then you said there was 2 sphinxes, my mind went to the ending of the Never-Ending Story, where he's going down the path towards the 2 sphinxes standing there guarding this gateway. And I never thought about it as like the Lion's Gate. And how when only the ones that are of the right energy can get through. And it's like, I don't even remember how he got through, but I know he did, where everybody else couldn't. And I was like, oh my God, I never thought about it as like a Lion's Gate, an activation gate.
It's a rite of passage, and you're right, because a couple years ago, I'm showing my kid, and he's, he doesn't care. He just wants to like go play with his toys. He's like 6 years old then, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's 2 lions right there in the Never-Ending Story. And I'm like nobody else cares but me, but I'm like, that's freaking cool. And I realized that too. And, it's a rite of passage. And that's a big synchronicity, because that means that we're in a experience and synchronized because like our vibe is our tribe type of thing, and we're on the right path, man. We really are. Like when all those kind of things happen, it's just validating, right?
I look at it too, and I see Sebastian is the earth form, and Atreyu is an altar, and they're in sync, and they're remembering and reading and experiencing each other's stories. And it's like Sebastian knew about Atreyu, but I don't think people understood in the movie how Atreyu understood who Sebastian was. Because how could he know about this human on another world? He's not reading a book, but there are scenes where he talks about, wait, who's Sebastian? I think he even calls him out by name.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wait a minute, how is this possible? And it's like, now it's like I'm looking at it through a new lens and going, they're the same people, different. One's an alter, but they're the same consciousness.
Have you ever gotten into like the whole oversoul thing and 144,000 and all that?
I have.
Okay. So yeah, like when I'm binge listening to Bashar, because a lot of times he'll correct people and tell them that that's not you, that's just another fractal of you. And then the person will ask, after that, well, are we the same oversoul? And then he's like, yeah. And so what it seems like, I'm not sure if it's in all instances, but in most instances, it seems like our parallel life, like in my book, basically I'm the blue Lyrian of Mars, and I'm also the human in Atlantis at the same time. And I do remember that part with the Sebastian thing. That might also be a reflection of the higher self and the physical self as well. It really just depends. But yeah, it could also be just parallel lives. And I believe that when we go into the consciousness container that we go into for an experience, that we choose how thin we want our veil to be, right? And it's all in divine timing. So at age 49, you're going to experience this. At age 42, you're going to experience that. At age 16, you're going to experience that. At age whatever, you experience, these milestones, kind of like stepping stones. And the synchronicities are beautiful because there's been times that I asked my higher self, give me a sign. Please give me a freaking sign. Am I writing the book correctly? Because there's some crazy stuff in here. Like, it moves really fast. There's a lot of action. Warrior walks out with a reptilian head, and then they're like freaking going, and then there's a jaguar, and like it's just very fast moving, and then a lot of people died, and it's not like the typical happy ending story. And the moral of it is that it doesn't matter because we never die, and our energy is infinite. And so our consciousness container is just a container for an experience, and our transference of it is infinite. And so it's not going to matter. And it's not even so much about reincarnation because it's an everlasting present moment. It's just a perspective that is different, at the consciousness container, and that perspective at that time, even though there really is no time. That's how we experience it, like a movie, like a film strip, And right now, our film strip is as Michael and as Laura or Starseed Lø Lø at this time, at this point, and that we chose to be here in the quote unquote new age, of the Gaia reality, really returning to ourselves. And the more we stay in the moment at our highest passion, like me being here with you, and thank you so much for having me. I'm getting really juiced up from all this information because I don't have a lot of people that actually speak to me about this stuff. I'm in northern remote Florida now, and so I'm not in Northern California anymore by Mount Shasta and all that kind of stuff. And I do have one really good friend. Her name is Marcy Kosic. She's a tone healer, so she sings very high tones. And I read her book, and that's how I met her. She lives in Reno, so she wasn't that far from Sacramento. But other than her, this is my fill of my spiritual weird.
And now you have me.
Yeah. So now I have you. And so I don't know where you want to go with that, but I mean, we could talk about the Iranian wars. I kind of touch on it a little. That if you, I mean, I did join the military in this life. I call myself a warrior, but I'm a 5'2" petite woman. But like inside, I'm a warrior. And so I when I found out about the Iran wars or first heard about them, like binge listening Gaia and all that, it's oh, hey Sheila, how are you? That's my that's my music professional friend who helps me. She's in Boston.
Ooh,
Um,
very
she's
cool.
yeah, she's a medium. So shout out to you, Sheila. But
Well, this is probably a good segment towards you had asked me about doing something that's actually never been done in my 3 seasons of this show, and I'm kind of curious to see how it'll work out. And that is, you had mentioned about channeling something for tonight. So, do you feel like you have time to do that still? And do you still want to do that?
definitely,
All
uh, I
right.
just got
So,
I just got to get I just got to get a little bit close my eyes and if I would it be okay if I played a little music or did a little sound healing and got myself into it? And that's probably just last a minute or so, and then my eyes will stay closed. And I'm gonna have to trust you, Michael, to bring me out because what ends up happening is it feels so good in there. I don't want to come out.
oh, I
you know,
know. So,
and I don't really have a lot of control over what's going to come out or who's going to come out. I've had anyone from Julius Caesar to Houdini and unknown ETs in between. So I don't have a lot of whoever needs to come out, it will come out.
all right. And do you want to? How do you want me to know when to bring you out?
Um, higher self is telling me you're going to know when.
Okay.
Now, if there's like a point where just like I got to open up my eyes, this is enough, and it's a lot of energy, or I'm getting tired, I'll do it naturally. But higher self says either you're going to do it naturally or I'm going to do it naturally. It doesn't matter.
All right. And we talked about ways, and so it'll be another first for the show. We have a few sound effects that we talked about using for this one. So, yeah, just let us know what you need, and we'll go from there.
All right. Someone, oh, that's the mystery school guy. I forget your name, sir, but I watched
Jim.
a couple of your Jim. Jim, I love your videos. You have some really good stuff. I've been watching your YouTube a bit. All right. So let me get in the mood here. Let me see if I can turn off this light. It might get darker. Okay. It's gonna get dark. It's okay. Because that light is distracting. And normally, if I turn on music, that distracts me too. Let's see if I turn this down. That's better. All right, they're telling me that you have a burning question, Michael. I don't know what that means.
To be honest, I don't either. I have to think about that. Wow, talk about no pressure. Let's see. Burning question. Hmm. I guess a burning question that I would have on my mind that's probably on a lot of people's minds is the Project Bluebeam and all these 3-Eye Atlas and everything going on. Is this all a distraction to keep us from seeing what's really going on, or is there something that we really should be paying attention to in there?
It's both. If it's Project Bluebeam, Project Blue Book, names don't matter. Any kind of information that you can actually scrub and either find on the internet or even by word of mouth of a lay person, short of like Bob Lazar, under under a lie detector, is that's the surface stuff is mostly a distraction. However, intrinsically, looking within is always the best answer. You can have as many facts as you want or you can in front of you, as many to last a lifetime. At the end of the day, literally, it's up to you to decide and to feel into what you feel serves you best. If it keeps you in the highest vibration and the highest frequency state of mind, you're always going to make the best decision for yourself in that moment. If it's something that is quote unquote, as they say in the new age community, low vibe, this is probably not something that is best served spending your time listening to. And honestly, it's more than likely a waste of time going down rabbit holes. And this one right here, she was an investigator and used to binge listen to things in the background when she worked at home. So if they were in the background, she did learn a lot. She liked to listen to different perspectives of different political parties, different backgrounds, even different languages, Spanish, English, things like that. And she did learn a lot. And she's gotten to the point where tools are fun to use. That could be anything from a tarot card to watching TV or being on your phone device. Again, this is something that you can only decide. The distractions are there in place to distract you away from much deeper meanings and to keep you from going within. Does that make sense?
It does, and it in a way makes sense why a lot of people are waking up now, as before it seems like more people are starting to question what they've been a part of and who they are. Is that the goal of going to the next level of humanity's growth, that we are those who are to awaken are waking up?
Yes, in the game of ascension, because the experience is real. Okay, the experience is always real. The reality is not real. However, the experience is. That's where the value lies. Is that? So in the ascension game right now, it's a reflection from within what is without, because there is nothing without and nobody without. And so it is all within. And that is why they actually say that it's not the mind that's within the body, it's the body that's within the mind. And yes, our connection, it's not that our connection to each other is getting stronger, jumping to another level. We are just playing that game in a chess game of ascension. Does that make sense for an experience?
It does, and I'm curious, and I guess my real burning question is, I have dreams and visions of using what I was taught in programs to turn against those that are performing these programs against people's will. And I feel like there's more that are waking up and doing the same. Is that true? And is that like the ascension process for those in the programs is learning how to turn the tables, so to speak.
Now, when you say programs, please elaborate. Are you saying MK Ultra? Are you allowed to say that?
MK Ultra, the secret space program.
Mm-hmm. So, in order to ascend, have the experience of ascension, we have to get rid of the old, which is not working, correct?
Correct.
Everything is actually, all energy is neutral to neutral positive, which means it's only how we define it. And on the very highest level, there's very few oversouls. So, which is another reason why they say some people, matrix people and NPCs, just put in the background, and that there's roughly about 1 out of 5 starseeds that are the ones with the souls, and that the other 5 out of 6 are NPCs, just to give that experience. That is partially true. And so the world as we know it in this reality, in this consciousness container, in this mind and collective agreement, soul agreements, is not as quote unquote as bad as what is being portrayed. Being that it's neutral to neutral positive and only how we define it.
And one question I think that's on everybody's mind, and I'm not wanting to make it political, but is this the rhetoric of one side blaming the other side and not working with each other? Is that coming to an end and we're all going to work together? Or is there a reason we're seeing this quote unquote movie, as they call it, and it seems like nothing's happening, even though some of us know there is, if that makes sense?
Yes, everything happens for a reason, and your perspective, and my perspective, and the all collective perspective. Nothing is on accident. There's no coincidences. Therefore, it's not in vain. It's not for nothing. And it's not really that seeing is believing, it's believing is seeing. Does that make sense? Because we are creating the reality as we go. And our energy is moving so fast, like thousands of cycles, like billions of cycles per Planck second. It is like an old movie that we were playing in the experience of this GTA reality, kind of like Grand Theft Auto. It's like a video game. My avatar is this, your avatar is that. And yes, we're all connected like the law of one said as well. We get both. And they say roughly about 2% of our consciousness is in this consciousness container, while 98% is still as source. The ether as a whole, consciousness of itself. So remember, anything that does seem to happen, which again, it's not real, the experience is real, which is a hard concept for humans to perceive. This being speaking is from the 10th dimension. It doesn't have a name. Names are not important. The being wanted to say that. So it's like not needing a name. In these other dimensions, we don't need names because we just have our own frequency signature. Does that make sense?
It does, and thank you, and much respect to you and appreciation for talking with us. And if I may, I have one question that I think Laura and some other people may benefit from hearing the answer to, and that is, we have come to learn how Hollywood and the music industry have been corrupted from what they originally were supposed to be and have turned to these satanic ritual programs. And is that coming to an end, and is that falling apart, and that's why there's no real movies coming out anymore. They're all repeats because as it's unraveling, they're still putting stuff out, but it's not working like it was before.
Bingo. Dismantling. Parts of the matrix that need to be dismantled because the frequencies are too high and the energies are too high to maintain them. Does that make sense?
It does. And so is that why we're seeing more disclosure type shows where man working with ETs or star beings, however you want to call them, star seeds and hybrids, are becoming more positive in shows versus the past where they were like, they're here to kill us, they're here to eat us, we have to destroy them.
Correct. We are slowly but surely, as interdimensional beings, because we are reflections of each other, which means we are each other, right? And it is internal, and everything that reflects is us. And this is physics. This is not just a belief. So if you're hurting what seems to be somebody else, we are actually hurting ourselves. And it's called self-realization, self-actualization. And a lot of your monks on the planet speak of this and meditate on this for 8 hours straight. And they are correct. Not everybody can go and meditate for 8 hours because a lot of people are just surviving with your monetary system paycheck to paycheck. However, the veil is thinning, the frequencies are higher. And so, yes, a lot of things from the past have actually ceased from happening. This quote unquote not preferred. And we don't like to talk about rituals and abuse. However, this is a realistic, very small part of your reality in Gaia. Remember, there's infinite realities of Gaia, and such as the Greys, whom we work with, we're Turians. We can just how you walk in a room, we can jump in this reality in this time. And so, do we know the future? Yes, we do. However, we don't know which one because it's infinite realities, right? And the frequencies are going to determine that. And a lot of the teachings that you need to know from being a small child is very basic teachings that we are all connected, like the law of one, that we have an individual perspective point, but it is much stronger that we are actually more connected, and not just in quantum entanglement, in actual entanglement, and that what we do affects every reality and every infinite reality. Does this make sense?
It does. And is that going to affect the med beds that are coming and going to be supposedly helping everyone? Is it going to be based on energy alignment, or is there other stuff that people need to do to start preparing for getting a med bed experience?
This med bed ideology is obsolete already. The technology is actually way more advanced than that. It's more like a whole room experience that is a chamber. And no, it's not a bariatric chamber. This is a very advanced technology that we have shared with Earth, and that other beings have shared frequency methods, frequency devices. You know how they call it electromagnetic pulse technology?
Yes.
It kind of works like that, except where it's frequential pulse technology, more so. And we are just given a rough estimate by the year 2050, a lot of your diseases that you know of will be obsolete. So medbed technologies are therefore already obsolete, and unfortunately there are quote unquote fakes and frauds who say they have a medbed or they have a light pyramid or something. And this is what we say at the end of the day, because we live hundreds, if not thousands of years by our sheer will, and our frequency is Nobody is healing you other than yourself, because you are a source and a creator of yourself. Makes sense.
It does. And so I wonder a lot of times, because we're talking about energy on the quantum level and healing on a quantum level, do we even need a device, or is it something that we can just ask for and it happens?
Are you familiar with water diviners, sir?
Yes.
Are you familiar that with your own body, you can be the water diviner? You don't need the sticks and all this.
Right. Yes, I've experienced that, different forms of using the body to heal and answer questions.
Yes, it starts from within. And when you teach your children, which hybrid children will be integrated sooner than you think, half humanoid, half grays, sometimes half Pleiadian. So the hybrids will physically be around when the frequency is high enough. And when the frequency is high enough, all the youth in the lands will be taught how to heal, quote unquote, heal themselves. And not only heal themselves, prevent these things that we call diabetes too, and MMS and CRPS and pain regional this and that, and fibromyalgia. A lot of these things will be a thing of the past and the old ways. And as our frequencies get higher and higher and higher, we say "are" because we are you and you are us as well. And nobody is higher than anybody. That's just an experience. So we say 10th dimension. It's just another version of you. Just like how the Greys came here and hybridized because they could no longer mate, and they got rid of emotions, which ultimately was not smart on their part. However, they have soul contracts and agreements with people such as Laura and yourself, Michael, to be part of this hybridization program. That's a whole nother side story that we can get into another time. And we went off on a tangent. We're sorry.
No, I appreciate the information. And there was a question of these healing technologies, are they like crystal chambers? And I'm also curious, are there certain crystals that can be used to bring in, help to activate the starseed strands of DNA that are within us?
It's not necessarily the strands, because our whole consciousness containers are piezoelectronic and magnetic, and it's more so the beliefs. So if we believe that we can levitate something, we can. If we agree that in this reality, we can. If that's why we say it starts with training the children from when they're very young, and this time of realization of having not just superpowers, but being able to live hundreds of years in a physical container experience, and then having the option to move the consciousness to another physical container. That technology is already around. Replicator technology is already around. Replicator can replicate anything that you would like. Food, anything that is made of quote unquote matter in your language. Nobody will be hungry. Nobody will go without water or air with replicators. Med beds, like we said, are outdated because the frequency will be so high that technology won't be needed. It doesn't mean that there won't be other technology. Just like a starfish can regenerate a whole limb when it's cut off, that technology is already available. And so I don't think we would classify that as a med bed. That's just one example of if we were in a war, quote unquote, or a space war, an intergalactic war, and wars don't happen that much anymore in galaxies and realities because frequencies are getting higher everywhere, every reality. Does this make sense?
It does. And I'm kind of curious, those who have been in like the secret space program dealing with other beings out there, when we had the what in Earth terms we call first contact, will we be recognized and play a role in that, or will they just view us and be like, okay, they're not the ones we're supposed to deal with. We're supposed to deal with these, so we'll just acknowledge them later or not at all in that moment.
Acknowledge the first contactees from the hybrid programs, or just first contactees in general?
I'm just in my mind. I'm playing out first contact and being like, oh, those who from the programs will be like, I recognize. There'll be a connection of recognition, and will that be acknowledged, or will they focus on the people who are standing before them, saying, we're here to represent humanity, and we would like to extend the olive branch of peace and friendship, so to speak.
It's going to be more the latter than the former. However, remember, as frequencies get higher, the connection of the entanglement is stronger, which means telepathically the knowingness is stronger as well. Does that make sense?
It does. And thank you for that. And if I have two questions from the people watching in the chat room, if it's okay for them to ask.
Yes, we have a lot of time.
Okay, so at Anchor Haven is asking, can you share a name for my 10th dimensional aspect, please, to help me connect?
They told us Lyrian. Strong Lyrian. They don't have names of 10 dimension, but they say Lyrian ties. Cat means the Lyrian constellation. There's blue Lyrians, there's others that are not blue. They are humanoids. And strong ties are shown here in not just ancient Egypt, but all pyramids and any structure with that shape, because that shape is very important to creation. Not only does it point to the sky, it's basically going from a flat to a 3-dimension, which is creating the higher self, the physical self, and the spiritual self. Does this help?
She says, okay, thank you. And the second question we have is from Jim, who's at Lucier Mystery School. And his question is, am I doing everything right for my mystery school channeling?
They said self-love. Are you channeling your self-love? And what does this mean to you to follow not only your highest passion in that moment, or moment to moment, with no expectations on the outcome, which is challenging for humans and other beings of the like. But self-love is very important. Loving oneself is loving the all. This makes sense.
Thank you. And so one question I'll ask for myself is, in 2026, the new year coming, am I going to be able to balance better my spiritual growth, podcasting, and writing books and all these projects that are going on in my head? Or am I going to be able to figure out how to do everything in smooth ways, or is it going to be one of those, I have to go through the challenge to get the light on the other end?
Well, first of all, Michael, you're one of us. You do have ties to Arcturus, as well as Sirius and Lyra and Pleiades and several, too many places to count, as you probably know. Second of all, it's the synchronization principle. We believe Bashar Collective speaks of it. Synchronization principle basically just means that everything comes in divine timing, the order it's supposed to. Another thing we will tell you to deal with the perception of time in the human reality is that if something doesn't get done that day, you have 5 things on the list and 2 things got done, the synchronization principle has perfectly aligned with the way it's supposed to. So there should be no anticipation or anxiety of what if I didn't do enough, because this one, she's screenwriting her book till midnight and wondering what's going on, and and doing music and working with 2 producers and coming on this podcast, things like that, which she loves to do all this stuff. As long as you're in your highest passion in that moment, does it really matter what you're doing in that moment?
Thank you. That helps a lot. And
and a planner. We say get a planner, Michael. We don't care if it's written down. You can actually get a scheduler app. They have apps on your phone. No, this one doesn't have one. She needs one too. She's laughing on the inside. But they're saying
I have 2 planners.
Are you using them? And using
yes,
them
actually.
Okay. Well then with synchronization, you're doing better than this one, because she has alarms and calendar invites going off and doesn't even have to.
Yeah. I don't always remember to put stuff in the planner, but I am using them.
Okay. So even if you have to set alarm reminders 5 times a day, do what you feel will help you organize to get through the day. Take that one day at a time. But again, the synchronization principle will only allot you what you are supposed to get done within that day, because there are no accidents. Does that make sense?
Yes. And one more question from the chat room is at Vaughn.P-I4J is asking, am I in alignment?
I think this is Laura Lula's friend, and the answer is sometimes. And that sometimes you can have one foot in the other side and the other foot on a different side. So just make sure that you are doing in the moment what feels right with you. Nobody else knows this. You could have an identical twin with 100% same DNA as you. They are not the same consciousness or spirit. Only you know this. And so it doesn't feel good to be neither here nor there. If you're in between stuck, or you feel like you're stuck, it's impossible to be stuck because energy is always moving just to have the experience. However, the experience of feeling that way is real. Even in a matrix, experience is real. If you have one foot over here and one foot over there, make up your mind. What did they say? Crap or get off the pot. That's our answer.
I love hearing 10th dimensional beings using Earth terms and actually using them right. That is so funny. It's so great. And my last question for you, because I know energy can get taxing on bodies and stuff, and I'm sure you have other things to do as well, but I don't know that in a channeling if this has ever been asked, but do you have a message for Laura?
Oh, good one. She didn't expect that one. And we just want her to know to keep doing what she's doing. That her doubting herself with music or even screenwriting, which is way different than book writing. And she did her first audiobook, and we're so proud of her. Everything is synchronized and beautiful, and she's very busy, just like such as yourself. And even in the podcasts, it was a synchronicity. She's actually crying a little right now, which is her, not us. And because there's 2 Michael podcasts. There's a different Michael and a different podcast. She's going to be on November 25th, and she was specifically asked to channel Grace, and that is she has nothing to worry about. She's going to be fine, because normally she doesn't pick. They pick, from the higher. It's just the higher self that is coming through as an archetype, and she wasn't nervous about this at all. But we love her. We are her. She is us. And she knows that we're there. She does ask for several synchronicities. She loves synchronicities. She's almost addicted to them. And let me tell you, we will give her 3, 4, 5 a day. Like she will see a word that is not a common word when she's writing her screenplay and sees some word that is not like if and the. It's not a common word. And then she looks up at the screen of YouTube. 2 seconds later, it shows up, or on a TV show, or in her book on the side. And so she loves that. And we send her these messages. Yes, they are from us, Laura. Yes, Michael, we're telling you they're from us too, which is your own higher self. Does that help?
It does. And thank you. And from my heart to you and all who are around you, thank you for sharing this time with us. And I feel like now would be a good time to bring Laura back, and peace to you and love and light to you.
Thank you, brothers. Thank you, sisters. We love you all, and you're all doing great. Everything is in perfect timing. Everything is for the highest good of the all. Even if it's a moment you don't prefer, change it. That's what we say. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Just a minute.
I played the fountain because the gong kind of like was really soft sounding to me, so I was like, I better switch to a different sound effect to make sure we bring Laura back.
Thank you. It was like I astral traveled. I mean, then that's another thing. Laura I want to talk about. Astral travel, you don't travel anywhere. Like everything is here and now with your consciousness. But we can have, like a dream and seem like we're traveling and going somewhere else physically, even though we're not. So I think there's a lot of rumors about that in the community that an Akashic record is in a dimension over here, or neither here nor there, and everything is here and now. So me as Laura wants to mention that. Does that make sense? And I don't know why this came out, but it did.
It does, actually, and I want to share with you at the end. I don't know if you remember what goes on when you're channeling, but there was a question asked for you, and they answered it, so I can't remember all of the answer, so you probably, if you want to know what it is in full, well, unfortunately, I have to rewatch this episode.
Oh, I will. Thank you. And yeah, it's kind of hazy for me. It's like being in an actual dream where you kind of get bits and pieces. And,
Yeah.
so if I do go into meditation and, go under, like I want it to be recorded so I can actually hear what the answers are and absorb it a little better. So thank you. I will watch it again.
And I did make them laugh, and they were like, because I said, I don't know that this has ever been done in her channeling, but I said, what, do you have a message for Laura? They started laughing, and they go, no, I don't think this has been done. Here we go.
Actually, in QHHT, they, at the end of the hypnosis, like you can ask like 5 questions or whatever, there's a set amount, but you prepare it ahead of time. So it has been done, but not on the spot like that. You know what I mean?
Right. So I thought, since we were getting messages to the chat room, I was like, seems fair to give one to the person who's not present. And so I didn't want you to feel left out.
I appreciate it, Michael. Thank you so much. And I do remember that they said something about synchronicities, that it applies to you too. So
And it does.
You get a synchronicity on the never-ending story or whatever, or you see a word and then 2 seconds later you see it again and it's not a common word, or you hear something, or you have ringing in your ear when you're seeing something cool that you like, or, like something like that. They wanted to tell both of us specifically as brothers and sisters that the synchronicities are real and they're coming from our higher self because we're asking, am I doing the right thing? Am I on the right track? It's hard for me to be like, I just trust everything blindly and I'm doing the synchronicity principle. And, like it's challenging for me too. I want to know. I'm a retired investigator. I want to know what's going to happen in the next moment. And I got to get over that, because
It is, and
it's hard.
For me, I had a guest who wrote a book about synchronicity, and after that show, for like 5 episodes in a row, the word synchronicity kept coming up in the shows, and I was like, this is so synchronistic that I have been like drilled into me. Look at the synchronicities, and so now it's like second nature for me to go, oh yeah, it's synchronistic. I was just thinking about that. Here it is. And or watching something and go, I was just thinking about this. And here it is on TV.
Yep. That's the higher self sending you a message because you asked for it. You asked for it in the universe and you're in a high frequency and it's coming from your heart and, in the best place and all that. And you're going to get it. So watch out what you ask for. You just might get it. And if you want to find 5 pennies in that day, you might end up finding 5 pennies in that day or a feather, I say she, I'm almost still in the third person here in dream world, but I do find actual feathers on the ground. These ones I didn't make myself, but I love bird feathers and I love crows. It can be another discussion another time. The crows told me I was having a spiritual awakening, not physically, of course, but energetically, and that's a whole nother story with the crows and the Dark Night of the Soul song, which has crows, in the picture.
And there's something to be said about finding feathers on the ground. And you could easily say, oh, because of bird flu, and the feather got loose and it just happened to fall there. But it's a whole nother ballgame when you see like a gray feather and you're surrounded by black birds and blue birds and there's not a gray bird around. You're like, where did this feather come from? There's no bird around that it matches to, and that's where it's like I really take notice, and I'm like, I'll take a moment and say thank you for this message and move on, and I leave it where it is, even though I know it's probably a gift for me, but I feel like this is a gift that, even though for me, I want to share it with everybody, and I don't know, somebody else may come along and be like, oh, I needed that feather today. And I'm like, if I take it, I'm like, I'll remember it with or without the feather, but I feel like there's beauty in leaving it for other people as well to see and experience.
That's true. I go with my intuition because I have a thing of collecting rocks, whether, in like in a state or national park, I'm supposed to take the rocks, but, like at the beach or even state or national parks, like normally the higher self will tell me, take 1. You want to take 5? We say take 1 because leave others for other people. And those ones are supposed to be there for a reason. No, don't take that one. I'm like, oops, sorry. And then, no, don't take that one. Okay. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to take that one. Yeah, that's fine. Don't take any more, Laura. I'm like, dang it. But, so I use my intuition. If I don't need the feather, I feel like, I don't grab it. But if I like it, then I will grab it, and maybe it's meant for someone else or, I say it's another version of you sending yourself the message, which is really cool. Whether you take it or not, it's for you.
And I love how you get that too, is like, I'll hear in my head, oh, pick one, this is a gift for you. And I'm like, ooh, I like that. No. I'm like, and like you're saying, you go for a different one. They're like, no. It's like, why don't you just tell me which one you want me to pick? Well, instead of going through this long puzzle of figuring out which one I'm supposed to take, because I'm obviously going somewhere else with it.
Yeah, sometimes it's just meant for the experience. Other times, part of the experience is actually taking it home with you. And, it's trusting your intuition. And actually, that's an analogy for life. The other day I said life is just a distraction. It is. But it's more importantly and deeper, it's an experience. And the analogy of life is moment to moment and living in the moment. And if in the moment your higher self says take the damn feather, take the damn feather. If they say no, then don't take it. That's a good way of your compass, your inner compass of practicing. Because we don't need a tarot card to tell you something. We are our own, intuitive being. However, they're props and they're fun, and these sound healing things and all of that stuff, and tuning forks. And do we need it? No, we don't. And I have about 20 oracle decks and tarot decks and stuff, but they're fun. And like the feathers are fun. And maybe I want a black feather and I saw a white feather, and so next time I'll hope for a black one. You get it. And that's an analogy of life, just moment to moment, by using your intuition.
Yeah. And I love how you have like 20 plus decks, because so do I. And it's always fun of going, I know I need to do a reading. Which one is it? No. And I'll finally go, is it on this row? No. Is it on this row? No. Is it in this column? Yeah. Okay, I got a choice of 4 now. Which, narrowing it down. Learning the game to narrow it down.
Exactly. And as long as you follow your intuition, you can't go wrong. Remember, everything's synchronized anyway, so there really is technically no wrong decision that you can make, which is kind of cool on a higher level.
Yeah, and Jim was just mentioning he loves the moon backdrop of yours, that it's really cool. I was like, yeah, we were talking about that earlier when we started. It's like really cool how people are starting to be able to do those. But yeah, and so thank you for coming on. And we have, I'm going to plug this in January. Laura will actually be on my other show, The Energy That Surrounds Us. So look for that, and you never know when she'll be popping back up on this show, or maybe multiple episodes on the other show, or both. I'm not going to deny her if she wants to come on any of the shows.
Yeah, or if you just want a channeling session, it could even be a quickie, 30 minutes. I'm open to anything, because there's a strength in numbers, right? Like, do you remember that show from the 80s called Out of This World, with the girl who was an alien and she put her fingers together and stopped time?
Oh yeah.
I don't know why I keep on thinking of that, but that keeps coming up, and so I liked it, as a youngin' back then. But there is a strength in numbers, because
there is.
The more starseeds are together, or people that love paranormal stuff and all that, metaphysical, anything, Native American, spiritual, all that, we have a strength in our numbers. So I don't necessarily have a lot of people around, physically here, and I'm in a remote area that I can feel like, all right, let's do channeling. And I literally have one friend, my friend Marcy Reno. She's really the only one that we really bounce, reflect back, because we can't be objective with ourselves. And so, yes, I can do a reading for myself, or be pulling cards out and be intuitive to a point. Sometimes we're meant to be collectively having that experience with someone else. So that's what I'm saying. If you just want me to come on and channel for 30 minutes, I could do that too. We don't have to get into my life story every time when the viewers already know about it, and it's a little boring too.
Definitely. And Jim was saying more readings, please. And I was going to say, check out her socials. She does them almost daily. So you can always catch her, or she'll be doing a song. And so
yeah,
she has amazing stuff on her channels. So keep an eye out on those, and subscribe and follow along. And I just want to say, Starseed Lø Lø and Laura, from my heart and my show's heart, thank you for what you're doing for humanity.
Oh, thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for having me on here, because a lot of us have a voice because of people like you.
And that is one thing that, I love about doing this, is giving a voice to those who may not feel like they have one. And so thank you. And I am so grateful that it actually is being noticed.
It is being noticed.
And your work is being noticed as well. So, everybody's work's being noticed, and everybody has a role to play. And I just think it's amazing how we're connecting now, and everything is, here comes that word again, synchronistically falling into place and divine timing.
Yep. And I know I'm scheduled to be back January 20th. However, I'm open to be back sooner if synchronistically it's supposed to happen, or if there's a need for channeling or anything else, anything else that we want to ask them about, because it's a surprise of who we get and, what they answer to me too. I'd rather have no prep ahead of time, because that just keeps it in the moment. And so I'm open to being back.
It was funny when you approached me, just so people know, as you were asking me, is it okay to channel? Some people want this group or this group, and I don't know who's going to come. And I was like, I used to channel. I know there's no guarantees, so let's try it, and whoever comes through, comes through. And I think it works perfectly. I think it went really well.
Cool. I look forward to re-listening. I hope you all have a great night, and I will make sure I'm following everybody who's listening and the likes. I think I've literally gone through your friend list and followed like 500 of your friends already. So, but I will continue doing that, because it's big to give each other support in the community. It's not just the strength in numbers and the energy and all that. It's uplifting to all of us.
It is. And if you feel like a channeling, and you're wanting to use a platform, reach out, and we'll see if we can't make it happen.
All right. Sounds good, Michael. And thank you, everyone who's listened and who will listen to the recording.
And hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving. I know it's next week, but you can never have too much gratitude in this world, I think. And so hope everyone has a wonderful week and a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we will see you all on the next episode. Have a good night, everyone.